Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully, this is working and the audio is being recorded correctly. Okay, so let me see if I'm all set up. I believe so. Let's make that a bit bigger. Chat messages. I've still been looking for a way to make the chat messages disappear from the Twitch screen share after a few seconds, but they somehow don't provide a way to do that, or at least I haven't been able to find one. So managing without that for the time being. Okay, cool. So let's get things in. Let's set things up. So I'll set up the context of the stream today. So I'm still working on my OCaml Dream web app using htmx to drive interactivity from the server, and SQLite for storage, and Tailwind for style, CSS. On the last stream, last Sunday, I got as far as making rudimentary e-tag based caching work for notes, but there were still some display bugs that were happening because of the use of HX Boost. But since then, I've managed to figure out those issues, and the display bugs have been resolved. As we can see, for example, let's go to, if we click on any linked note, the linked note is loaded up, and we are good. If we go to, for example, a search page, a tag search page, or full text search page like this, we click on one of the search results, and we get it loaded up, no problem. So there are a few subtle things that I had to do in there to make it work, but right now pretty happy with that overall. I can go into more details if there's interest on that, but today I want to focus on expanding the scope of the e-tag based caching as much as possible. So there are several views in the backend for getting and setting and editing notes, which can actually benefit from the same caching, because we added the e-tag based caching at the we're sending it down to the database layer using the e-tag optional parameter for the db.notebyid function. So we notice that db.notebyid function is actually used in several different handlers. For example, edit note, this is being used to do a get request, which gets a note editor view fragment. Let's actually take a look at that. It should be this one here. So the route is get/id/edit, and since it's a get request, we can do caching on it. So what I did was I took advantage of the e-tag on the e-tag argument, as I mentioned earlier, and I added a helper function to grab the e-tag from the request, which is using the request header if none match, which we had already been doing before, but this is just formalizing it a little bit as a helper. And when the database says that, okay, this is none, that means it's not modified. There's nothing to update here, so I created a helper not modified, which just returns a dream empty response, and make sure to cache that according to the default settings so that the browser can cache it. And of course with the not modified status so that the browser can load the old version of the resource from its cache. And of course, if there is some note, which means it has been modified, then we render the view, and then we respond with the HTML node and with an appropriate header set of headers, which also we have extracted into a helper recipe tag, which just takes the etag value string and returns a list of headers which should be set on the response. Which now I'm realizing that there's a little bit of duplication here. We can just use the already defined cc constant for the cache control header name. So that's cool. So now we have caching for edit note and also for the cancel edit note handler as well, actually, which is what gets called when you change your mind about editing a note and you cancel the edit. And that's also a GET request because it gets an HTML fragment which renders the unedited note back on the page. So for example, I want to edit this note, I change my mind, cancel that, and we go back to an edit rendered version of the note. And let's do that one more time. I want to edit it. Oh no, I changed my mind, cancel, and we go back again. And now with caching, we see that this works as we expect, where we return when we initially want to edit it, we get a 200 response with the node body fragment, and then when we change our mind and edit it again and cancel again, we get a 304 not modified, and the response is loaded from cache. So that works as we expect. But what happens if we actually do edit the note? Well, its modification timestamp would be updated, of course, and we save that. We see it's been updated to right now, and we see that here as well. Well, of course, on the initial edit, that was loaded from the cache, the text area view. Then we do a post. Of course, this is not cached, and then when we get the editor view one more time, we see that this is correctly reloaded without going into the cache, because obviously it's a new version of the resource with a new etag. Cancel that. We'll see a 200 response again. Yep, there we go. Edit again. We should see a 304 not modified. Yep, there we go. And cancel again. We see a 304 not modified. Yep, there we go. Which is great because just because by having the database layer handle the etag, based on the etag, we're returning a note, some or none, which indicates whether it's been modified or not. We can add the etag-based caching functionality to several of the views, which turn out to be cacheable, and we save on quite a lot of traffic potentially, and potentially we can cache quite a few more of these links routes as well. I think we've pretty much covered almost all of them. We have cached this one, this one, this one with the tag-based caching. Perhaps the only one left is to cache the node links response, which we can look into later. I do want to take a segue here and give a little bit of an update on my setup, actually. So since last week, I kind of bit the bullet and I decided to make a couple of changes. The first change is you might have have noticed that I was, right now in the session, I was making some changes in the editor, and then I went straight into the app, and after saving and tested it out, that's because I started using watch mode in Dune's exec command, subcommand, which means that Dune will automatically restart the app as soon as I make a change to it. So that's super helpful. If we turn on the quiet display mode to make, to make sure Dream doesn't log a bunch of noisy messages in the middle of our HTTP logs. Dune should, stay a little bit quiet right here because it's in watch mode. So we add the display quiet option, we add the watch mode flag, and boom, we are automatically reloaded as soon as we recompiled and reloaded as soon as we make a change. Really great workflow. Very reminiscent of Python, Django, that kind of stuff. But it's all obviously statically type checked and all that stuff with OCaml. So the other automated change that I made was I turned on auto formatting. So I decided that life was too short and I don't want to spend more of my time moving things around, indenting, dedenting, and stuff like that. So I picked out Antron's Dream OCaml format file from his Dream repo, and I decided to, I tweaked it a little bit, added a couple lines here and there, a couple settings, and then pretty much went into that fully. It's super easy to turn on auto format. You just use VS Code's default auto format setting. You just turn that on. You just put an .ocaml format file in your project root, and you make sure that you install the OCaml format package from OPAM, which I did install after that, so we are good there. OCaml format package is actually what you need here for the auto formatting to work with Visual Studio Code in recent versions anyway. Okay, cool. So now, having said that, with those changes, very convenient. Now let's take a look at what we've done so far. Pretty simple changes here. Added some helpers for managing tag requests and responses, based caching. So we've, we said that we can cache, but you have to recheck and so on and so forth. That's the way tag based caching works. And we added caching for the get note, or rather, use the helpers now. And for the edit note and cancel edit handlers. So we have tag based caching for all three of these routes now, and they work pretty well. So that's great. So let's check this in and get this in there. I believe this is uppercase, yeah. Alright, so without further ado, push that off, and let's get back to running the app. Restart it instantly. Nice. That's actually because maybe because I turned on bytecode compilation for local development. I figured it might be a bit faster, and I believe it is actually faster. The recompilation, incremental compiles. Not that the OCaml binary compiler OCaml opt is not really a slouch. I often say that it's about as fast as the Go compiler, but I think that the bytecode compiler probably outdoes them both. So I use the bytecode mode for local development, and we can see that in my make run command target. I use the .vc target, which is the bytecode target, which tells Dune to compile bytecode mode, along with this Dune setting modes by DXC, which the default is inexplicably exe. Dune does not turn on bytecode compilation by default. You have to explicitly tell it that in my executable I want bytecode compilation as well as executable compilation. So some little bit of a trick that I picked up along the way. Okay, so now that we're committed, we did the git commit and push. We're clean. We're in a clean state. Let's think about the next step. So the next thing to do here is actually, well, there's a subtle caching bug with node caches and the way that the etag works. So etag is based on the modification timestamp. It's basically a hex value calculated from the modification timestamp of the node. And that means that the node modification timestamp needs to be updated whenever the node changes, either the title or the body, whenever any tags are added or removed, whenever any links are added or removed. But the subtle bug here is that I forgot to cover some of those cases. For example, I believe deleting a tag will not update the modification time of the link. Let's try, for example, let's add a tag TLS, and we should see now that the modification time will be 1432. Let's reload the page, which is, there we go, 1432. And then when we delete the tag, the modification time should also change again accordingly. So it's going to be 1432 or 33 something, which is higher than 22 seconds. So let's delete the tag and reload the page. And it actually worked. I guess I was wrong about the tag deletion. Maybe it was the links that I had made the bug was presenting itself with the linking feature, perhaps. Let's try. So obviously we're at 1433. Delete a link. So we're at 1433.00. It should increase. Or not. I guess the bug is not in deleting links. Okay, cool. So let's add a link and check, I guess. Alright, we re-added the link. It was at 1433.30 before. It should increase now. And it did. Oh wow, okay. So somewhere along the way, I guess, fixed the bug that I thought that I had introduced in node updates. Or did I never make that? Did I never have the bug in the first place? That's interesting. I was hoping there would be a bug, but it turns out there is no bug. So that's a little bit funny. It looks like my logic for updating notes is kind of exactly correct. Oh no, wait, hang on a second. I know where the bug is. I know where the bug is. It isn't linking, but it's not in the link update time of the linking node. It's in the update time, I believe, of the linked node. So, for example, if we go to index in a new tab, index is the first node, node ID 1, node number 1. So that was updated at 1432.47. Alright, cool. Now what happens if I delete the link from 110 to number 1? So before we see that, before the deletion, that link was there, and the updated time was 14:33:47. But after the deletion, did it? Uh, yes, actually. Um, I still can't find that bug. I was so sure that that bug was there. Huh, interesting. What happens if I link from the older node to the newer node? So I add the link. So the updated time was 14:35:24 before. It's updated now. Um, but will this update time increase as well? 14:33:47, 14:36:04, and they match. Both of them were updated when the link was added. Okay, cool. So I'm grudgingly having to admit that there is no bug, which is a little bit disappointing. I was hoping to solve the bug using an SQLite trigger, but if there is no bug in the first place, that means that I made all of these changes correctly. For example, adding a link in the database layer. We're doing several SQL queries into the SQLite database. For example, we're modifying the first linked node, the second linked node, and then we're grabbing the node title. Similarly, when we're deleting the link, we're modifying both of the linked nodes and then deleting grabbing the old node title. Okay, cool. So I guess I did not do a screw up and make a bug. So that's, I guess, something, at least small consolation. Okay, so then let's kind of reset a little bit and look at a couple of other things that I wanted to kind of work on. So one thing that I don't quite like is perhaps well, actually, hang on a second. I did put in a couple of to-do items for that I wanted to touch on in the stream. So one of them is e-tag based caching for the account page. Now we added caching in the note page fragments. So can we do the same thing in the account page? The account page is this page here. It's almost completely a static page. So it would pretty much be the same page every time you load this page. But as we can see now, every time you do load it, you are having to do you're getting a 200 response back because it's your account is being reloaded from the database, and then the entire page is being re-rendered and sent back to you. But basically none of this needs to be re-rendered. It can all pretty much stay exactly as it was before every time you reload it. The only thing that might possibly change is your time zone. You might decide to change your time zone. Nothing else is kind of dynamic on this page. Everything else is kind of static. So okay, so let's work on e-tag based caching for this particular page. Let's see how that would work. So on the account page, let's go to the account. Well, let's go to the route. Let's start from there. That's the entry point of our app. So the account page is /app/account, which corresponds to this scope and this handler here. So this is a GET request, obviously, so it's cacheable. So let's go to the handler. This handler is created beforehand by passing the database to the handler function here. So this essentially becomes a handler function by first being passed in the database and then having the database kind of locked in for the particular request. Which now I'm thinking, yes, right. That's because there's only one account database, and that's for every user. So every user would get the exact same account database. Each user has a separate row in the database, but every user has a different notes database. All of their notes are in separate databases, so those notes would never intermingle with each other. Only the account information is kept in a single database. So that makes sense. Anyway, get ACC with the accounts database when we get a request. Session name is just the name of the person, which is stashed in the session, or the email rather of the person. So grab that email from the request. It must be there, otherwise there's something went wrong. Grab the settings that correspond to this person's email, and render the account page here. Pretty simple stuff. And this is a rendering an entire page, I believe. Let's take a look. Which is, yes, it is rendering the entire page here. Using the request, the username, the user email, and the user's time zone, which is really the only dynamic part of the entire page. Everything else is static, so it's very, very cacheable, as we can see here. Basically nothing else is dynamic. Yeah, one thing that I don't particularly like about auto formatting is it vastly blew up the space, both horizontal and vertical, needed by the views. Before they were a lot more compact, but now it's kind of like blown up quite a bit. But yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, I think it's worth the trade-off that I don't have to do it manually anymore. So we're good. Yeah, so that's rendering a page. Cool. We don't need to worry about any dynamic parts of this page that should bust the cache like we did with the notes. Everything here is completely static, pretty much completely static. Okay, so let's try adding the etag based caching here. So the etag would be applied where we would be getting the settings from the database. We would pass in the etag here. But let's take a look at this query to get the settings. So this is a wrapper over the prepared statement, which is created above. Let's take a look. Okay, here's the query. The SQL. Settings, where do we select case when JSON valid settings, then coalesce JSON extra setting, basically just grabbing the time zone out of the JSON object, which is stored in the settings column. We can kind of take a look at it right here. Oh, actually, I already set those up, so let's take a look here. Or the schema rather. Create table account. You have the user, which is the email address, password, created and modified timestamp. So modified is what we will use. The modified timestamp is what we will use for the etag based caching. Let's actually take a look at the account row. So that's the username, email, the password created at modified at settings. Settings is a JSON object, contains an object encoded as a string with the user's preferred time zone, offset here, and the export timestamp, the last export timestamp from the database. Okay, so let's see here. We would want to pass in an etag parameter into the settings function call, which because and it would check whether the modification is or the etag is different from the one that was passed in, and we know that we can rely on the modification timestamp to accurately calculate the etag, because we see here that when we update the settings, we are always updating the timestamp as well, explicitly. So yeah, let's add that to the database first. So to the settings call. So here we add the settings etag here. Warning, unused variable. Yes, we're going to use it in just a sec. Let me just refresh my memory about how I did it for the notes database call. Oh, that's right. I had to add an etag field to the note record type, which indicates that I'll need to do the same thing here as well. We have a settings record type. We'll need to add the etag here as well. Okay. So etag is a string. Yeah. Of course, we get a compiler because we don't pass in the etag string here. So etag is equal to, oh hey, we have a visitor in the chat. Hello, typed reflections. How's it going? Nice to see you. Thank you, you too. I'm having a pretty good Sunday. Probably gonna go out for a walk in a bit. Okay, cool. So we're gonna grab the etag from the well, it's gonna be a string. So let's grab the string from the second column of the result. Oops, sorry, that's not it. Oh, nice. Cool, I hope you had a good walk and good dinner. The name of this is text. This is the function that converts a result set into a strongly typed object in the response. Okay, so just refresh my memory. What did we do next? Yep. We have to actually return the tag, of course. We might as well copy this in the query. This is the one, settings query. This is a prepared statement actually. So okay, so select case blah blah blah, and we need a second find myself one more time having to do indentation, but that's okay. Case when, then else, 0 blah blah, etc. And the second column is this one here, and that is the tag. We don't need the end dot because we don't have that alias. we're just selecting directly from the account table. So select case end. Sorry, the end should be here. Comma should be here. That's the first column, second column, and from account, where user, and quoted string literal, and delimiter. So that should do the trick. We now grab the e tag by calculating it as the hex of the modified column, modified at column. The column name is modified at. We know, we just checked here, so we're good there. So let's go back to the query wrapper function. Right, what was the, we had to add a where clause, a filter to the where clause when we call this. So let's look at that filter. We added a filter for the notes query. I must have added it. Let's check. Ah, yes, of course. Note by ID is match tag. Match optional t note by ID. Match tag with. Ah, yes, of course. We didn't pass the e tag directly into the SQLite query, but we handled it one level above that in the handler function, in the wrapper function for the query itself. So let's do that here as well. We'll do the same thing. Match tag. Oops. There must be only one. Unlike with this note where the note could be found or not. The account must always be found, otherwise there's something wrong. So it's correct to use the only, and there must be only one account for this user. So that's why we are correct to use only over here. Okay, cool. So, but we do need to use the match, pattern match. Let's try it. Match only this user from the settings, blah blah, e tag, or rather, sorry, match tag with we must get back a user who will have, or rather the settings record, which will have the e tag and the timestamp, and some match tag when the e tag matches the e tag that was sent by the browser, by the user. When they do match, then we return none to indicate that it has not been modified. If they don't match, then we return, otherwise we return the settings record value to indicate that it has been modified, which should cover all our cases. Compiler didn't complain, so we know we're good here. With the e tag logic, there is still Oops, actually there is a compiler. Let's take a look. Of course, the interface file has to be updated. So let's update the interface file, settings. So we added the, we added the etag parameter here. Let's add it after the database connection parameter, just for the sake of kind of aesthetics. Etag parameter is a string, and grab it for the user. Still not happy. Oh, of course, I need to add the new etag record field here as well. There we go. How about now? Still not happy. Of course, because we added new record fields, but we didn't handle them. So, where is the act view? Okay, let's go to act view. This one here. So the etag is not important when we're rendering the value, so it's still not happy about the database interface db.mli. Let's see what the mismatch is. Settings, blah blah, settings option. Values do not match. Settings option is not good in settings. So I should return a settings, but I'm returning a settings option, it looks like. Yes, that's true. That's true. I do want to now return a settings option because it might have hit the cache. It might not have been modified. So we don't want it to be optional. We do want it to be optional going forward. Okay, so let's make the necessary changes in the handlers. So when we log in, this will need to be updated. This is an option, but we needed the settings. Okay, when we log in, then when we do a post request to log in, then we must get the settings, otherwise something is really wrong. So we must do an option. Okay, we must get the settings, otherwise the error will be handled by our error handling middleware. Okay, so this is now returning a settings option. Getac dbrec. Getac. This handler is being called by who? Let's check the router, I guess. These errors are probably going to go away as soon as I fix the errors lower down in the kind of module tree or module graph. Let's see, getac. Where is getac? Of course, that's the account view. This is the very handler that we want to have the caching for. So now we will do a pattern match here to see if some match was found or not. So let's try that. Match session name, blah blah, options, settings to be with. If it's none, then it's not modified. If it's some settings, then in that case we do settings, render the settings, and respond with the proper headers, etag resp headers. What was the header again? Let's check what we did for, well, let's check maybe in our commit logs. Yes, it's resp etag with the etag. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Resp etag with the settings.etag field. Compilers all gone, I believe. Let's check. Yep, we are good. So now we should be successfully caching the settings, the account page, by using the etag. Let's try. So let's reload page. First reload, I expect it to have a 200 response, and we do have that here. For the get request, the get account request. Let's try reloading one more time. We should have gotten a 304 not modified. But we got it. Looks like we got a 200. We got a 200. Okay. Did the etag not get sent properly? What's going on here? Let's check. Let's do a request. Oops. Okay, let's look at the request headers. Oh, here we go. Here's the etag. And on the response, we have the etag as well. And it's a 200. Okay. And the etag is the same. 323, blah, blah, 3439. It's the same etag, right? Ah, I know what it is. I forgot. Well, no, actually, I did not forget. When the cache is hit, then I'm returning the not modified response, which should have set that up as cacheable, or to reuse the cached value. But when the cache is missed, we rendered the view and respond, and we set the headers as we did before for the notes with the etag. Realizing there's a little bit more repetition here as well. Did I set the cache control? Yes, I did. I set the cache control in the response. And I set the etag. So the next time this request is sent for the slash account, the account page, it should send the if none match, which it did, yes. But the server responded with 200. That's weird. It should have responded with 304 not modified. My logic must be wrong somewhere. Let's just do one more check here. Yep, we got a 200 again. So that means that the logic path, which should have returned a 304, is not working as expected. So that means that oh hey, we have a first-time visitor by Ronak. How's it going? Nice to see you in the chat. All right. Hello. Let's see. So yeah, we need to look at the logic of DB settings function. Make sure that it returns none if the e-tags match, which I thought we just did, but let's double check this. The e-tag that is returned. Question. What am I building? I'm building a web app. It's called ZettleKit, and it's a note-taking app. I'm just building it as a hobby for pretty much my personal use. So, for example, it has a tags feature, search feature, type ahead search feature as well, account management, and so on and so forth. So right now, just trying to add some caching into a particular page, which is the account management page. When most of the page is static, and it should be almost fully cacheable. So just trying to make that work. So we have the network calls. It's almost all server side. Yes, you're right. Actually, there's a little bit of JS. I have a little script where I do a couple things which I felt were more efficient to do on the client side. A little bit of error handling, a little bit of configuration, a little bit of. I was hoping to make the slash keyboard shortcut work for doing a search, but I'm not sure if that actually works. Let's check. Yeah, it looks like my Vim extension actually swallows up the slash keyboard shortcut. Let me see if I can turn that off temporarily and double check if the slash thing works. So let's press slash. Yep, slash works. Yeah, so that is this event handler here. If we're outside of any input, if I press slash, then I should jump to the search box and start searching from there. Yeah, so very few things. You can see about 34 lines of client-side JS. Everything else is on the server side. Of course, the other JS that I didn't mention is the htmx library, which is a helper library that allows you to attach certain attributes to your HTML tags, and it will take care of certain interactivity functions for you. Like it'll make get requests and other kinds of requests and so on. Anyway, so the logic which we were trying to figure out, we pass in from the account handler, we pass in the e-tag. But now I see the issue. Now I see the issue. We never pass in the e-tag. We should have passed in the e-tag, of course. Let's do that now. OCaml doesn't guarantee not making silly mistakes, of course, so we have to actually pass an e-tag. Especially with optional arguments, it's easy to forget to pass in an optional argument, and the type checker doesn't complain because it's optional after all. So I explicitly set it up that way. So let's reload and try one more time. And yes, we see immediately that we get 304 not modified on this GET request. So yes, the logic is working perfectly now. Let's go to our index page, tag page. Let's go back to our account page. There's some crack. Type for a few keys. Not sure what that means. I will have to figure out that meaning later, I guess. But yeah, the reloading the account page, we got our 304, not modified. Ah, okay, in the audio. Um, oh, you mean when I type on my keyboard, the typing noises get picked up in the audio, is that right? Okay. Let me see. I just have a normal Mac chiclet keyboard, MacBook. Uh, yes, type reflections, that's true. I could make it not a non-optional argument, actually. That's a good point. I've been defaulting to making everything optional things, optional arguments as well. But you are right. I could make it non-optional, which would instantly force it, which would let the type checker work. Ronak, you were saying that the in the video, you were watching a video and the keyboard noises were louder than my voice. Oh, there's a cracking sound in the audio. Hmm. When I type. Okay, that's weird. That's weird. I never noticed. I'll have to rewatch my video and see if I can catch that noise. That's uh, that's interesting. I had not noticed that. I'll take a look at that, or listen rather. Um, okay, so where were we? So just to kind of keep driving forward a bit, the etag based caching is working for the account page as we were hoping. So if we reload this page multiple times, we should keep getting 304 on all of the get account requests. Uh, of course, there are a bunch of other requests for static stuff, which is being served by Dream as well. We can ignore those. But yeah, the account page is always 304 because it wasn't modified. But let's check what happens when it is modified. Let's change our time zone. Oh, okay. Looks like we got a little bug when we try to change our time zone. Mm, okay. Looks like we have a little bit of a bug here. Mm, when I try to change my time zone. I wondered, did, did I introduce this bug just now? Let's check. I'm pretty sure I didn't change anything that would have caused this bug, but let's check. Let's commit this etag based caching of the account page. It just happened again, even when not typing. It sounds like a torn speaker diaphragm. Hmm, interesting. Maybe I need a better mic. I am just using the built-in laptop mic when I speak. Maybe I need a mic which kind of filters out noises better or something like that. I'll need to figure that out. Cool. Thank you, Ronak. Yeah, I'm actually going to stop streaming now as well because it's my hour. And so I'm just going to commit and push this, and I'll figure out the other bug later, I guess. Uh, Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Take care. Etag based caching off account page. Let's commit that and push. I'm not going to do a deploy right now because I still want to fix that bug. But for now, I will end the stream and we'll pick up next time. Thank you for watching and hopefully see you next time.